long time no see. This is Colin at the Death by Thrifting headquarters, here to report to you that today we are going to be thrifting for records. I was gonna do a thrift with me video, and I went thrifting yesterday and found absolutely nothing. What better to do a video on during record store day weekend than to go looking for records? And I haven't made a video of that. Why haven't I made a video of that? In this period of hibernation that I've been in, the thing I care about most has been records. I have been obsessed with records and listening to records. I've been listening to them now more than ever, even though I've been collecting records since I've been 16. In fact, I've been on such a record kick that I did something bad. I did something bad recently. I sold... Alright. I sold... Alright, I'm gonna say it. I traded my CDs and my CD player. Recently traded in all my CDs and my CD player so I could get a new turntable and a new receiver. Although I love CDs, I love plastic, I love collecting plastic, I like the analog music experience more, and I like the listening experience with records a bit more, but I think ultimately I want to collect records and focus on that for the time being. And you know what, listen, if I was rich, I would keep all my CDs in my CD player, but I'm not. You gotta trade stuff to buy stuff, as a young person. So, you know what, that's just the hard reality. Also, I am happy to report that today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp. Recently, I do feel like I've entered a very transitional period of my life. I feel less sure of myself now more than I ever have, which you would think doing something like talking to the internet, you would become more sure of yourself, but for me it's been quite the opposite. There's so many things that I wish to explore in this lifetime, and professionally, personally, but oftentimes I'm uncertain of what that will actually look like. End up getting overwhelmed, and then I end back in that same old cycle of inaction and anxiety. But I think spring is naturally a very transitional period for a lot of people. You know, there's new ideas, there's new priorities, there's new desires. If you feel that same anxiety towards change, you're not alone. In fact, you're exactly where you need to be right now. I've actually been using BetterHelp for about 2 months now, and I've had such a positive experience and can't imagine where I'd be had I not started it in the first place. BetterHelp is super easy to start. You fill out a questionnaire, you're going to be matched with someone in a couple of days. If you don't mesh with the person you are matched with, you can change that, no cost whatsoever. Starting therapy is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of great strength. So if you're interested, click the link in the description or head to betterhelp.com/deathbythrifting for 10% off your first month, baby. Sending love. I guess I'll show you what I'm wearing today, and then we're gonna go look at some records. But first, let's talk media. Musically, what has happened to me recently can be summed up to the term the British invasion. For me, I didn't grow up listening to the Beatles, and I was always super envious of people who had that kind of magical childhood where their parents were just playing Beatles albums all the time. So for so long, I kind of put off listening to all their records, although I knew all the popular songs. But I wanted to go deep, especially because my friend Hubble is one of those diehard fans who is borderline insufferable. So these are not my records, they're his, and now I kind of wish they were mine. Sgt. Pepper's, Revolver, Rubber Soul, Abbey Road. And what I would like to call the Brown Album, because this copy is so disgusting and I think has mold growing on the back. So you're probably like, alright, what's your favorite Beatles album? I don't know. It kind of changes all the time. I'm not going to be that guy rambling about the Beatles for too long, but I will give you my 2 cents. At the moment, I feel like Sgt. Pepper's has been my most re-listened to. I think the best Beatles song of all time for me is Day in the Life, which is the closing track. Lucy in the Sky, Lovely Rita. The Sgt. Pepper's Reprise, come on, it's so good. I don't think the White Album is their most cohesive record, but for me it's still one of their strongest. You still get Happiness is a Warm Gun, Dear Prudence, I Will, Helter Skelter. I love Long, 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 and Revolution 9. But I've also been loving Revolver, and of course Abbey Road, which I do think these two are like their objective best. But it's hard because like Rubber Soul also has got some hits. I've also been listening to, you know, John's solo stuff like Plastic Ono Band, which I don't have a physical copy of. Been listening to this copy of Walls and Bridges. Out of Paul's stuff, I haven't listened to all of it, nor have I listened to all of Wing's stuff yet. I'm getting there. Ram is such a sick album. If I see a copy of that today, I would probably walk home with it. I'm not gonna lie. Also McCartney 2. McCartney 2 is so crazy. He really plays around with like electronic music. Temporary Secretary, if you know, you know. And alongside listening to the music, I have been watching the Get Back documentary, which has been the main thing that I've been watching because I haven't had time for movies, because each episode of that is like at least 2 hours long. Yeah, all I've cared about is the Get Back documentary, which was filmed in '69. It's just all of them working on Let It Be, and then from Let It Be it ends with the rooftop performance. Finally got through all of that. That's all I've cared about. And last night I watched 1 to 1, John and Yoko, which is the new documentary that just came out. Saw it in IMAX, which I don't know why that had to be an IMAX, but the documentary just sets the stage for what New York was like in '72, what they were doing musically, and it leads up to their 1 to 1 like benefit concert. It has a lot of that old archive footage of them, and then also like kind of splices in footage of Nixon and Vietnam and the hippie movement and all of that. Also watched Help, which was just a fun little watch. What I will say is, this is what I'm wearing today. Two of the things I got from France last summer. This French chore jacket, it's like a workwear jacket, has this tag on the inside. Biggest things I wanted when I went to France, and they had a jillion? They had a million of them, and I got this one for like 20. I am obsessed with the buttons and the pockets, the deep pockets. This is a perfect thing to wear during spring because it's like a longer layer, but it's not too heavy. It's like just like a light shirt. Down below I'm wearing my orange tab Levi's that I purchased at a vintage shop there. For like $75, I want to say. These are the nicest jeans I own at the moment. Want to buy more vintage Levi's because of owning these. And off we went. My friend Hubble and I had planned to hit 3 record shops, which was pretty ambitious considering we only had like 2.5 hours to do so. We got some coffee, We arrived at our first shop of the day, Allison's Record Shop, which I'd never been to before, and I'd heard so many good things from friends. I was so excited to go, and I was even more excited that everything was 15% off for Record Store Day. We walked in, were greeted by Allison herself, Beatles' Blue album playing, and 60 Herb Alpert records. After re-listening to all the Beatles, I'd planned on doing a Stones deep dive, so I wanted to pick up some stuff from them. So I looked at their section and found a lot of good copies of things, like this OG UK press of Beggar's Banquet. I looked in the Lou Reed section hoping to find a copy of Transformer. I saw this OG press of Rock and Roll Animal, which was also very cool. Then I went to the David Bowie section, because I don't own any David Bowie. I don't know why. But there's a couple of albums of his that are kind of my go-tos, like the Low album, Scary Monsters. I didn't see those. But everything shifted when Hubble and I started looking in the Paul McCartney section. He pulls out McCartney 2. And immediately after that, we find an original pressing of Ram. And I couldn't believe my eyes. And I did give him first dibs because he's a far bigger Beatles fan than I am. Then we headed over to the new arrivals to see what we could get our grimy little hands on. Was picking through, saw a lot of cool things, some Carpenters, some more Stones, some Elvis. Would highly recommend Allison's if you're classic rock, psychedelic rock kind of person. Otherwise, they don't have a ton of contemporary stuff here, which I was totally fine with. Also found the Sonic Youth record, which was cool. After a solid 30 minutes at Allison's, we both felt pretty accomplished and headed to our second record shop of the day, which was Daydream Records in East Nashville, which I think is a record shop that's been around, but they moved locations recently. It was also my first time here. They have a crazy jazz selection, crazy punk section, ton of new arrivals for Record Store Day. Immediately spotted this original press of Mad Villainy on the wall for $125, which was very tempting. And this Mojave 3, never seen this record out and about. We started picking through the new arrivals together. Found a lot of niche things that you probably wouldn't see at other record shops, and we spotted this Nico live album, which we were both very intrigued by. In the indie section, I found this PJ Harvey record, which I love and I really wanted to get. And I also found this Gary Newman. I love this album, but this is like the demo version of the album, which was super cool. I've never seen this before. In the rock section, I spotted this very clean copy of The Wall by Pink Floyd, and I've been meaning to do a deep dive on them and listen to the albums I haven't heard yet. Really was considering this one, and in the rep, spotted this De La Soul record, which is really cool. With only 30 minutes to spare, we sped over to our final stop of the day, Phono Lux Records, which is my all-time favorite record shop. Alright, speed run. At approximately 30 minutes. I brought in a receiver to trade in for some store credit, and I started looking at The Wall to see what I could find. The Wall never disappoints. There's always some crazy original press or like Japanese imports, but I went to the new arrivals because I only had $40 in trade. I saw some Kendrick, some King Crimson, some Bowie, some Stevie Wonder, some Nick Cave even. I was looking so fast that my life was flashing before my eyes. The other side of the new arrivals, I found some John and Yoko stuff, which is very cool. They always have a ton of Beatles stuff here. I swear they have such a diverse collection of records. They have a really good electronics section. I saw some Brian Eno records I liked. I've been eyeing this Ambient Aphex Twin box set for a month now. I really want to pull the trigger on it. And they had this reissue of Figure 8 by Elliott Smith, and I don't own this one yet. And I really wanted to get it. So we made our final selections and headed home. The sun's setting. Record Store Day. Beautiful day to be alive. Life is good. Eating ice soup for dinner. Is today a bad day to Venmo request you for utilities? I'm having ice soup for dinner, but I got some albums. Starting off strong at Allison's Record Shop, my two favorite solo albums by Paul, original presses. It is super gratifying to listen to a record for like 2 weeks straight and then see it, the physical copy of it in a record shop is such a rush, especially the fact that it is an OG press, 1971. And what's cool about Allison's is it is graded, which, you know, take with a grain of salt, but she had it marked as very good plus, and this thing is clean. It's 1 LP with a gatefold, comes with the original sleeve, and I went ahead and put it in my own because I do that. And this record is clean, and I paid $30 for this original press of Ram. Just been enjoying this a lot, considering the amount of Beatles I've been listening to, and very pleasant surprise they had this, and the fact that they also had McCartney 2. This is also an original press from 1980. There's a little something on his face, but I don't care. Is also insanely clean. It looks brand new. Oh, also, yeah, this one's a gatefold too, even cooler. And the original inner sleeve is very, very, very cool. So this is a cool addition to my collection. Also been enjoying this a lot. I spent whatever 30 plus 18 is 48, but everything was 15% off there, so I only spent, I think it was like 44 with tax. We'll be going back to Allison's. Daydream Records, I got the iconic Pink Floyd's The Wall. And I ended up getting this because I'm gonna do a like Pink Floyd like deep dive after the Beatles, which I've kind of listened to it all. Really just excited to kind of go into that deep dive and listen to some of their albums I haven't heard yet. And I thought, what better way to start than to pick up a physical copy of The Wall, which is a 1982 repress. It is just in great shape. The jacket looks brand new, gatefold, and yeah, I think $40 was not a bad price for what I got here. And finally, the grand finale. At Phonolux, I got not one, but 2 records by the Stones. Between the Buttons and Let It Bleed. And I don't own any Stones records. Let's talk about Between the Buttons first. Alright, so there's a story here. Wanted to walk away with this record today, and I got it. Then I got home, and I looked at the back, and I messed up. This is the UK pressing of Between the Buttons, which is different from the American press, because this version does not feature Let's Spend the Night Together or Ruby Tuesday. So it is not on the track listing on the back because of the UK version. How they did it back in the days, they released those as singles and then they were like, alright, but here's the album. But the American records kept the singles on the album to kind of promote the album more. And this is a repressing of the UK version. So I got the UK version, which does not have Let's Spend the Night Together. And I'm so mad, honestly, because I love that song so much. You win some, you lose some, and at least I got this, and it's new. Someday soon I will get the US copy. Extremely excited about this old copy of Let It Bleed. Early 80s repressing of this album. There's a million represses of this record because of just how big it is. And I'm really not that particular about which version I have. I just want to have a good, clean copy that sounds good. Something I wanted to walk away with, classic album that I love. Has this original pink sleeve, all the credits. The record itself is in great shape. For $25, I said, I'll take it. All in all, I walked away with 5 new albums. I spent $90.80 on today's record store day. I wanted to conclude this video by talking about my record setup for anyone curious and some little tips and tricks that I have for you. This is my current record setup right now. First major update is that my records became too plentiful, and in fact they knocked over this speaker twice. So I was forced to relocate. So now all my records are down on the floor. I don't really have a shelf. I loved having my records on top of my dresser. It became too much. And I got this new turntable, which I can't really stack on my receiver anymore because it's too big. So I have my record player here, my receiver on the right, and my little ashtray with my incense going on it. The record player I ended up getting, I got secondhand from a record shop, and this is a Pioneer. But this one, I thought it was a direct drive, but it is a belt-driven turntable. But it's cooler than the last turntable I had, which was the LP60, which is just the base level Audio Technica. So I got this vintage, I believe 80s Pioneer turntable. Pioneer is a reputable brand, so I'm happy with that for right now. It sounds great. And I'm rocking this ONKYO receiver. ONKYO is a very reputable brand in terms of audio equipment. ONKYO is a Japanese brand. Still rocking with my JBL speakers. Someday I'll have a nicer setup. Right now, this is all a guy like me needs. You know, to be quite honest, the average record listener does not need this fancy setup with all these fancy doodads. You know, I'm just in the belief that you shouldn't think you need this grandiose, expensive system, because that turns people away from wanting to listen to records. It's like the point of records is to do it for cheap, you know? Get a receiver at a thrift store. You can get them at any thrift store, I promise you. If you look, they are like $10. As far as a turntable, you know, don't buy one at a thrift store, but maybe buy one secondhand off like Facebook Marketplace or your local record shop, you know? Speakers you can also get at a thrift store too. You could also do Facebook Marketplace, you know? Make it work. Make it work. It doesn't have to be expensive. Don't discourage yourself from starting. I think it's just important that you find a setup that works well for you. And if it sounds good, it is good. Do not overthink it too much. A couple of years ago, I also invested in like a 200 pack of these clear record covers and then these plastic inner sleeves, which once again, not necessary if you want to start listening to records. Records are supposed to be loved and used. Don't be afraid to use them, get them scarred and scuffed up. Treat them with love, but live with them, love them. And I'll end by saying a little life hack that I thought of recently. I'm probably not the first person to have thought of this. I was tired of putting my damn record on top of here and it's sliding down. And I was like, wait, I should go thrift for one of those like plate holders or like frame holders. And I found this one the other day. It was literally $1. They make really cool like wooden ones, or they make like metal ones. Also, I am a DISCOGS user, and I have logged my entire record collection, my small but mighty record collection. So if you want to follow me on DISCOGS, or just see what I have, my username is Colin Bradley Rose. So yeah, I got a lot of records to listen to. Support your local record shops. Invest in records. And peace and love.